not do anything short of deliver one spectacular final.
Who is going to be crowned World Cup champ?
He needs to get perfection. He needs to get first place. It all comes down to this moment. Real question right now, who is on top?
Welcome everybody, it's the FWS World Series 2018 live from Chengdu. I'm Ryan Meyer, joined by Daryl now. Thanks for joining us, Daryl.
Ryan, big honor to be here with you, the thousands of fans, and all of our top action sports athletes.
We're about to get ready to have a massive BMX semi-final happening. That means it's the UCI BMX Freestyle Park men's semi-final. This happened, a huge qualifier yesterday. Some big action went down. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So the big story in all of BMX freestyle for men and women's is the Olympics. That's right, 2020, skateboarding and BMX are both going to be in Tokyo. The reason I bring that up is that this weekend in particular is going to kick off our points race to see who could potentially qualify for the 2020 games. So it's going to be starting this weekend in November all the way until May 2020, where the riders are going to basically say, hey, where do I sit for my country and where do I sit individually? So we're seeing A games coming out here from all of our riders, knowing that this is the kickoff. We had a crazy qualifier that basically could have counted as a final for any rider out here, and things are really just heating up as we move into our semifinal.
Let's take a look back and see how the tour has looked so far out here on the FWS.
The 2018 FWS World Series kicked off in the land of the rising sun, Hiroshima, Japan. The roar from the Japanese fans pushed the athletes at round one, and they had their first chance to rack up points towards the season-long title. Round two had us going back to where it all started 21 years ago, Montpellier, France, for some epic comps and some amazing energy. For round three of the FWS World Series, we've traveled across the Atlantic to Canada. Here, the top three athletes from three different disciplines will battle it out for valuable World Series points. After a grueling year of training, travel, and competition, it'll all come down to our final stop in Chengdu, China, where we'll crown our FWS World Series champions.
It's been an amazing tour so far. We had such an action-packed series in 2018, and it's just heating up again. I mean, not short of any show-stopping action happening yesterday. But a big thing, like you said, Nick Bruce didn't end up making it into the semifinals. This is really going to heat up things for the point battle. But as we get to the competition here, we want to see basically how things are working out. We have our beautiful course there. Walk me through some other things, Daryl.
Yeah, Ryan, so we talk about this being a points race. This is the FWS World Series. We had our 4 stops that we saw. This is our 4 of 4 in Chengdu, China. And the thing that it comes down to is which rider is going to get the most points here. This is partnered with the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup that goes hand in hand. And let's take a little look at the format that it's going to take for our 24 riders to potentially move on to our final. So we see an overview of the course right here as we get ready to take a look at what the criteria is going to be. But by the numbers, it's 24 riders broken down to 6 heats of 4 riders each. They're going to have 2 runs with 60 seconds, and it's going to be the best run that counts after score. So 24, 6, and 4. 2 runs, 60 seconds, and the best run counts. Ryan, you and I are going to talk about this non-stop because for 2018, FWS changed up the format. They listened to the riders. They said, let's do a best run format that counts. The thing that changes is that freestyle, it enables a rider to basically be a little more free in their format. We used to do an overall approach where it would basically be your 2 runs, and if you had an accident or a mistake or didn't do what you wanted, you'd be heavily penalized. Well, this way, it comes down to where you do have that freedom. If you wind up putting down a good run, you could wind up then in your next one roll the dice a little more. But basically, our riders are going to be judged on their difficulty, the amplitude, originality, and style. control and execution, and the exploration of the park. Now, I just want to highlight that this park is built specifically for this event, and we could take a look at our judges who are going to be basically breaking down and giving our riders from 1 to 100. We have Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Romulad Norway, Christy Hughes, and Marcus Wilk. Those are going to be your 5 judges up there. It's very cool to see that we have Christy Hughes, who's a female judge. She actually was judging our women last year, but now she's going to be also judging with the men. It's very cool to see that rounded out approach. So our judges are going to be giving a score 1 to 100 points out there. Again, we talk about it being best run format that counts, but let's take a look at our top 24 that qualified from our qualifiers yesterday.
So you see there's a global heat of athletes storming out onto the field. And like we said, it is the top BMX professionals in park. Cam Peake going to be starting it off, followed by Reilly Kieran, a massive whack load of athletes out there. Jake Leva, Kostya Andreev, Ernst Martin, Marin Rantes, Daniel Dares, Daniel Sandoval, Ida Grazev, Kenneth Tensio, Jake Walworth, Declan Brooks, Rim Nakamura qualified right there in 2nd place, and then followed by your 1st place qualifier, Dennis Enerson. Super excited to always watch Dennis Enerson ride amongst all these athletes you see right there out in the audience.
Yes, we take a look, you can see Brandon Lupos out there, along with some of our female riders. Lara Lessman was in crowd, but we're taking a look right now. Cam Peake, you look at that heat 1, 2, and 3 of 6. Cam is going to be our first rider. Again, it is up to 2 minutes as we have that 60 seconds dropping, 2 runs of up to a minute apiece. And Cam starting things out big over that step down with the 360 and the bar spin with the tail whip in there. Cam coming up, throwing the bars into that tabletop. Let's take a look as Cam 360 double bar spin going down at that step. So Cam right now throwing a lot of tricks in right off the start. You can see the way that he's able to put so many tricks. Yes, downside 360 tail up to bar spin. So Cam right now is hitting that halfway mark. Talk about 60 seconds. Because this is going to be points towards the Olympics, we've seen our riders step up the game as far as this entire season goes, and it's almost down to perfection out there the judges want to see. If a rider puts their foot down, they're going to definitely be penalized very high as opposed to maybe a different contest. But Ryan, what we are going to see going up for that hang 5, yes! That was an awesome ender. But what we are going to wind up seeing here is that our riders are going to really have to utilize this entire 60 seconds. In some ways, it's almost going to come down to the last 15 seconds riders of their run if they can put an exclamation mark and not get lost out there. There was a look at that 360 tail up to the bar spin. There was the downside 360 tail up to bar spin. And look at this, going up in that hang 5, wrapping around, and then finding it right in after the 540.
Nice that he is able to lay out some of those lip tricks as well in the scores. What is that really going to do for a judge's criteria?
Yeah, I mean, basically they want to see the use of this course. It's designed specifically for this event. Earlier in the year in Hiroshima, we saw way more of a bowl-designed course where there was a lot more transition. Then over in Edmonton, we had a little bit more of a box jump featured course. And right now, I like to think of this as a little bit of a blend between the two. We definitely have the capsule out here. We've got a few hip corners. One thing to note is that we don't have their big feast step box jump, but we do have that 5-sided box that's centered in the middle. So Cam is going to get the first score, which is going to be a 76.8. That is going to be the bar to raise from. But right now we got the young gun, Kieran Reilly, coming from the UK, doing it for tall order. Now this rider, he was definitely been one of the young guys for years that you said, imagine what he's going to be like when he gets a little bit older, and we are seeing that right now. There's a lot of excitement beyond Kieran Reilly. Yes! That was a huge trick.
360 double tail whip, 2 bar spin. Absolutely amazing bike control from the young gun.
Yeah, Kieran Reilly, very exciting. He's got the energy to back up the big tricks. And that was a front flip going over the channel. Let's see as he goes around the berm, setting up, coming back at us. 360 bar spin 2 times. So smooth with the cadence of the handlebars, rotating them around. Kieran out here making it happen as he goes up for the foot jam, showing he's got tech. Bar spin, final 7 seconds. These are crucial moments out here. Tail whip 2 times. And a quick little front wheel pause to a 180 coming down. So Kieran Reilly putting down a solid first score. Or first run, I should say, but it's going to be in the judges' hands to determine what that numeric value will be. Let's take a look at the flare. A lot of height right there.
Check out that. That's that 360 double tail to bar spin. He went so far down on that spine landing, that step down spine. It has a massive, massive landing there, so it enables the athletes to hit the low point of transition and still be able to get away with that. Kieran was definitely taking advantage of that.
Taking a look at some of our fans coming in as we are waiting for that score. Again, it is a number 1 through 100 is going to be a numeric value given by our 5 judges. We are going to be taking 12 that will be progressing to our final, which will be tomorrow. So a 70.60. Look at the crowd, Ryan, pouring in here in Chengdu, China, looking to support all of our riders. So Anthony Jean taking the course, 60 seconds, starts now with the backflip, double tail whip. Look at the Superman seat grab. No-hander coming up. Jean, what we are seeing out here, all of our riders stepping up the game. Our qualifier basically read like a final. I can only imagine what our semi is going to be today as we are seeing our 3rd rider take the course, and Jean just charging as he gets to that 30-second mark with 30 to go.
Definitely on fire. Huge channel gap of that bar spin right there for Jean. Pumping back in, 20 seconds left in the run for Anthony Jean.
Yeah, you see that bar spin transfer coming down. Great use of that pocket right there rather than airing, just zigzagged on the flat bottom, quick tail whip. And again, we talk about these being some of the most important moments of a run. Yeah, big flare. The judges want to know that a rider has a plan and that he can stick to it and execute it from the first second all the way to the last. Now, maybe a couple years ago when the Olympics weren't involved, when basically the game wasn't elevated to where we are right now, you could kind of get away with it. Maybe a crash at the end of your run or whatever it may be, but that is not going to be the case at all as we look at the highlights for Jean with that backflip double tail whip. That is so cool. He landed so smooth, able to set up for the Superman seat grab Indian air.
And you can just see the caliber of riding, how difficult it must be for these athletes to get into even this semifinals.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, usually we say, oh, hey, if you made it to the finals, that's a big deal. But the semifinals has really been up because our current points leader, Nick Bruce, who is sitting in the top coming into this event, actually did not qualify for the semifinal. That just goes to show you how difficult our caliber of riding is. So right now we've got the Canadian Joel Bondu up on top of the quarter pipe.
Joel Bondu getting ready to drop in right there. You said all the way from Canada, we have a very global field of BMX athletes coming out here to test their luck.
Joel actually rides in his off time with Cirque du Soleil, yes! So he is very consistent because he rides at their show Volta. So he's very used to performing when needed. Joel Bondu, double tail whip, kicking it to a tabletop, just showing you that he's got the control. Bar spin. Nice opposite air to come in for the box jump. Downside 360 tail whip, hangs up a little bit, but he's able to keep it rolling as he wall rides into that no-hander. So we're seeing it's going to be crucial for riders to find their line. 60 seconds is a long time on a tight course like this. Yes! Ryan, it's safe to say that there's actually more tricks going on during this 60 seconds than we see on most courses out there. And that's because this course in particular has that combination we talked about. A lot of transfers. It's not necessarily 1 or 2 box jump setups with the straight lines. It's going to come down to a rider that can find their own voice out on the course and able to just confidently cut the corners and make their precision happen. As Joel does that 360 downside tail whip, kicking it back the other way. Look at that, the bar spin after the whips.
Yeah, beautiful run and execution out here. Nice, the points that you're touching on, as well as let's talk about Hurricane Parks, coming out here to all the different FEES locations and creating and sculpting these magnificent park features so that we are able to bring action sports to a community near you.
Yeah, Ryan, what we're going to probably see with scores as we progress through the heats, the fact that it's going to come down to, again, maybe the perfection element, right? Riders now can do a lot of similar tricks out here, but it's going to be on wood obstacles and also in their negative space, how they wind up not maybe taking pedals, keeping their flow through the park, or can maybe even maximize that last 10 or 15 seconds where they can just confidently plow through as the clock goes tick-tock, tick-tock. So Joel right now, 75.80. He's going to be in that second spot. Cam Peake, Joel Bondu, Anthony Jean-Jean, and Kieran Reilly are going to be the current order as we go back to the top of heat number 1 for the Mongoose rider, Cam Peake.
Cam Peake right now, he is sitting with a 76.8.
So again, it's a best run format that counts. Cam getting it done in his first run, 360 tail whip, bar spin, landing high in the transition to set up for that truck driver to tabletop. That spine is enormous when you jump down, but so difficult to get the speed coming up. Yes, do not correct your picture. That was 3 handlebars going around on that 360, known as the triple truck driver. Yeah, Cam. Floating that 360 downside tail whip, catching it for the tabletop. Cam with 25 seconds.
Yeah, Cam getting some nice style in there. The 360 1-foot Cam. Getting a little transfer up, back up onto the deck here.
We talk about these being such important moments in the run. Nose bonk to toboggan. Double tire ride. Going up for the hang 5 to the 540. Ooh. Icy getting it 2 for 2 right there. Difficult trick to do. That is traditionally a flatland move that you'd see, but over the last 10 years or so has been progressing to the skate parks, and we are seeing a 540 version from Cam. But look at the height right here. 360 bar spin to tail whip. That's on the step up going down. Here's a look at the bars with the tabletop in the 360 coming up. Showing you the control on that 360 downside tail whip to tabletop. The fact he was able to put his feet back on and do the tabletop just shows that he's not lost, the trick's not challenging for him, and the confidence is there.
And the hair is getting long on Cedric over there. We have a lot of, as well, photographers and other media specialists following the FEES circuit. If you guys ever want to get involved, make sure you guys tune in to all our social media channels. You can follow us at fees.official on Facebook as well. Super simple. Get us on Instagram and on Twitter at FEES World Series as well. Hashtag all your posts, FWS 2018. Stay involved with all the action.
There was a look at Ben Wallace. He was a rider who unfortunately did not qualify. He had a flat tire, so it definitely was not his day yesterday. But we are looking at the 17-year-old tall order rider, the UK's Ripper. We saw earlier in our spine contest in Montpellier where he was ripping it apart. Let's see if he could do the same as he comes out of the capsule. Kieran Reilly bar spin up, putting the gas down. Oh! kicking it around 3 times in a 360. That was the 360 triple tail into a front flip transfer.
Yes, Kieran Reilly totally slaying up here. That double tail whip air coming back up. 27 seconds on the clock, but still having all the power under his belt. That flare into a 360 tuck no-hander. What does he have? Tail whip to bar spin, still holding it together.
Yeah, Kieran Reilly definitely is working for it out here, because you can see from the start of his run, he was taking a lot of pedals out on the course, and the 60 seconds is a very long time out on the course. Final thought, tail whip transfer, and that is time for Kieran Reilly. That was a big run right there.
That was a very heavy run. He's definitely pushing for a top spot in there. I can assure you he's going to be battling Peake on that top score as well. I'm really expecting a score well into the 80s on this one.
Well, not only did he have that 360 triple tail whip, that front flip transfer, and the thing to note, though, is his approach to the course. He definitely didn't necessarily flow through it as far as his speed goes. He did flow with his tricks and his style, but he worked hard for that one, which is really cool. He had to pedal a lot and keep that endurance going. Big shout out to Sebastian Keep, tall order. He is showing off his sponsor, Sebastian Keep, one of the most talented riders who is not competing this weekend, but is cheering on, watching on Feast.tv. Taking a look out at the crowd, you can see Alessandro Barbero in Italy over there. Alessandro was competing in our qualifier, didn't make it to the final.
Oh, and we're getting the scores in. I was definitely wrong, eating my words here. He's staying with the 76.2.
Well, Ryan, I think the fact that you thought it was going to be in the 80s and it's not, that's not actually, you're not necessarily wrong with that. I think it's literally the fact that the game has been up. This is our first time that the points are going to count towards the UCI for our Olympics to find out who or which country is going to potentially qualify for 2020 Tokyo. So our judges are upping the criteria.
Wow, and look at that, starting to up it, not just with regular flare, but flare bar spin.
Ooh, going around the capsule. Coming out of the honor capsule right there, setting up with a double tail whip. Jean-Jean showing you the confidence as he kicks it around really fast and in control. Walking the line right there after that truck driver 360 bar spin, landed a little wide, but set up for that no-hander. Aaron over that extended spine, bar spin up. Jean-Jean with the no-hander coming down. So these are moments with that tail whip, no-hander. Jean-Jean, final 3 seconds, big flare. And that winds up wrapping it up.
Anthony Jean-Jean right here. That was a heavy run as well. Look at that, the backflip, double tail whip.
Yeah, I mean, so consistent out there. The double tail whip in the backflip set up for that Superman seat grab and able to kick the legs for those points. Wow, just floating down. Full commitment on those tail whips. Jean-Jean with another big run here. We mentioned, though, the scoring. The criteria is definitely strict from the judges at 74.60. I think it's safe to say if this were any other stop on the Feast World Series, we might see those scores a little bit higher. The judges, though, saw the qualifications, how high the riding was. I mean, you would look at that in almost every single one of the heats. Yesterday could have been a final, and that is definitely the case for today.
So, yeah, they're definitely being very picky as we move through here. You see as well, we have Joel Bondu dropping in right now for his second attempt here, the Canadian.
Ooh.
Triple tail whip, I believe that was.
We are seeing the triples come out consistently. The second rider throwing down the triple, the first being Kieran Reilly, but Joel Bondu doing a straight one. Tail whip, throwing that tabletop, downside tail whip. Joel jumping over the extended spine. Opposite air up. bar spin coming down. The Canadian, again, we mentioned he rides Cirque du Soleil, traveling around, putting on quite a stunt show. Getting a little lost. All right. Looks like Joel is going to wave off his final thoughts right there. So unfortunately getting a little bit lost out there for his final thoughts, but Joel right here was definitely in control on that triple tail whip, slipping a little bit of a pedal, but able to get back to it to have that tail whip to tabletop.
You see right there, Kevin Peraza, that sunshine and smile. Clark right there, Jeremy Mallet and Colton Walker. Our next riders for heat number 2 are climbing on course and starting to train and warm up the muscles.
Yeah, Ryan, we'll see in between the heats. Our riders will get on course. They're just going to take a minute. It basically doesn't mean for them to learn new tricks or to try new transfers. They just want to get that blood flowing and get ready to think about what they're going to do. So Bondu's second score is going to be a throwaway. His first score is going to be the one that sticks.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the highlights out here on the fees from some previous stops. Let's check out some bangers on the tour. These are basically some highlighted tricks that we've seen throwing back throughout the entire Fees World Series. As this is the last stop, let's take a look at some of the stuff here. This is Justin Dowell.
Justin Dowell doing a Twix with an extra tail whip. Look at Daniel Wiedemeyer going up on the back railing. You see Daniel Dare is actually holding up the railing. Daniel Dare is our defending champion, showing some support. Look at the big boy, Brian Fox, with an even bigger double backflip transfer in Montpellier. Kyle Baldock going around the spine with a 720 tail whip. Here's a look at Joel Bondu, who we just witnessed ride, and he threw down history as he kicked that triple tail whip to bar spin. Yes, that is what I said. And here is a look at Logan Martin with a 720 off-axis corked bar spin with a bar spin. And last but certainly not least was Jeremy Mallet right there going big over the box. And Jeremy is actually going to be a rider we're going to see in our next heat, but I'm going to take a moment and say to Logan Martin, we are just as bummed as you are that you are not going to be competing this weekend. Logan, unfortunately, is home with an injury. He wound up hurting his foot just before the contest. I know he is so bummed and so good if he can't be here. Logan was our 2016 and 15 overall champion. But right now, let's take a look at our standings. Cam Peake, Kieran Reilly, Joel Bondu, and Anthony Jean-Jean. So all the scores, 100 is the top possible you can do. It looks like they are all just on the outside of 80, so there's going to be a lot of room to move up as we progress with our 5 more heats remain. Ryan, as we break down after our first heat, the things to note, we saw all of our riders throw out big tricks. We saw most of our riders get used to the full 60 seconds. But again, I'm just going to highlight the thing I think is going to separate all the scores. It's going to come down to that last 10 seconds. It's also going to come down to making sure the riders do not put a foot down or have any bobbles out there. It's a best run format that counts of 2, and that is going to be the judges want to know that, hey, we're giving you that leniency. You can up the free in freestyle, but we want to see your one run be perfect. So here we go. Kevin Peraza, living in Tucson, Arizona. 360 tail up to tabletop, completely inverted. Peraza is an X Games gold medalist in BMX, dirt, and park. He's a very well-rounded rider. Oh!
Yes, 360 double downside.
Peraza is just out here charging around. Look at the control as he Superman seat grabs, landing high in the transition, building the speed up. He's looking for some type of gap.
Yes!
Oh!
Oh, it's still, I can't believe how he always has that smile when he's falling even. That's an amazing attempt, gapping in to the satellite dish there.
Peraza, 270 off the top of the spine, dark side toothpick.
Whoa! Going for a flare on the backside landing of that spine, of the large spine there. Peraza really going for broke on this one. Had a couple falls, can potentially put it together, but I love that type of, you know, action for unexpected coincidences going on in Kevin Peraza's runs.
So good right there. the Mongoose Vans rider, doing that 360 tail up to flatty. But then he had some difficulty in the honor capsule. Let's take a look. He pockets in, and then I think he was either going to try to transfer out or maybe then go for another capsule loop afterwards. Either or, he wound up going a lot faster than he did in the qualifier. So he had some difficulty. You saw that his tires didn't necessarily have that clean connection at the same radius. So he hit, he bounced off, and then dropped down. So Kevin's run is going to be a 35, obviously, because he didn't get the full run. He had a few crashes. But he knows the deal. He knows the format. He has won a lot of the major contests in the world, so when it counts, when the pressure's on, he's been known to do it.
Peraza waiting there, eagerly seeing what his score is going to be. I do believe it was going to be a low. I think I have it on screen. It was a 35 even. Now we're going to be moving forward to another man who oozes his own style on course. Of course, this is Jack Clark. Jack Clark starting off strong here in a different way, tackling the course up onto the spine. Huge off-axis backflip with an invert in it. Bar spin to tuck no hander right there. 360 tabletop.
Jack Clark's best overall finish was in 2016, where he got a 5th place overall. He's currently right now sitting in 23rd for our overall standings, and if a place in the finals will definitely skyrocket him up a lot of positions.
Oh, that was unexpected for Jack, actually going for a little bit over-rotated 360 with a double bar spin, hitting that little wedge hip. Super small crash, actually, and unexpected for him and us to watch.
Yeah, well, Jack back on it. He's going to wave off the time right there. So even if a rider falls, they're allowed to get back up within their allotted time and compete on the course. The penalty will be some points deducted at the judge's discretion. Look at that style. Upside down in a 360 tabletop. Some might want to call it a flip, a barrel roll. I think you and I just call it great style for Jack Clark.
Yeah.
But if a rider goes down, it's not necessarily a set point deduction. It's going to hurt your score a lot. If you touch a foot down and you keep rolling with momentum, it will be less. But if you have 1, 2, or 3 of them, it's going to really impact your score. Again, if this was a different contest, if this wasn't the UCI sanctioned BMX Freestyle World Cup, that wouldn't be the case. But this is the first event that's going to be counting towards the Olympics in 2020, and our riders are really focused. A lot of the countries around the world are starting to develop BMX programs, supporting, sponsoring, and helping our riders. You can actually see Jack Clark up there with the UK Great Britain colors on. We have our coach, Jamie Bestwick, who's out there been helping a lot of the riders kind of get in the feel and get in the program. So Clark has a 46.40, but again, best run format counts. So if our riders keep their cool, they could come back with another big run. This one will be a throwaway for Jack.
So next up, we saw him in our Bangers highlight reel. This is Jeremy Mallet, riding with vengeance this year. 360, oh, double bar spin into, double tail up into a bar spin. And just coming off a little bit there, all our athletes actually in heat number 2, not quite holding down exactly what they were gunning for. Jeremy Mallet, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Mallet looks like maybe his back wheel shifted a little bit. You can see actually looking down, the bikes are precise. Those are titanium spokes he has on there. There's a chance the wheel shifted, even though he is brakeless. So you don't necessarily have to have the wheel be as straight or as perfectly aligned between the brake pads when you're dealing with as much G-forces pumping off the lip to pull a 360 double tail up to bar spin like that. You need to make sure you're totally in line. You can see that pressure might have shifted the back wheel right here. Jeremy's going to have a little bit of time to get that done in between runs. So obviously a 6.4 is going to be that throwaway score. You can see right there, he's given a pound to Colton Walker, who's going to be our next rider to take the course. Colton Walker is an X Games gold medalist in BMX dirt. His best finish was in 2016, where he got 4th overall. Right now, Colton Walker looking to up the ante, backflip bar spin to a tail whip. Walker charging, he's from the United States. Oh, going around with that flare tail whip. I know that his dad, Chad, right now is cheering on Colton along with all the factory boys in Minneapolis, where he was a local rider, putting in the work over the years. Now he's on the main stage, carving around the turn. Double bar spin floating backwards right there. Downside tail whip. Walker transfer up. 20 seconds, Ryan.
Coming up here with a nice tail whip air, transferring down from that spine wedge with a nice truck driver. Hitting the sub box right there with a little wall tap. Alley-oop, downside tail whip into an alley-oop flare. Coming back to back there, and that's gonna do it. Last hit with a bar spin air, and Colton Walker keeping it going right to the buzzer.
Yeah, so you can see out here, again, it's gonna come down to a little bit of an approach, right? It's risk reward, the difficulty of tricks you throw. Also, it's gonna be the quantity of tricks that you do within your 60 seconds, but this is a big one. Backflip, bar spin to tail whip. Here's a look at the tail whip flare. That's a backflip 180 with the tail whip, downside tail whip over there. You see the slip in the pedal, but he's able to get back on it.
360 double bar spin right there. There's that alley-oop tail whip where he gets into some of a bit more the more technical tricks on the small part of the course, finishing to the end of his run. You're gonna have to wait and see what the judges will say for this one. Peake right now is sitting on top of the board with a 79 even, and that is a score that Colton wants to beat.
Ryan, I can't even fathom the idea that we are in our semifinals. All the names we're seeing are usual finalists, and they're generally the top qualifiers as we go into there. So Peraza, Clark, Mallet, and Walker, they were actually 16th through 20th as far as our qualifiers go from yesterday. Again, those are names that we're used to seeing in the tops in the finals. So Walker with the 77.1. Things to note on that scoreboard, not one rider has broke into the 80s. Not one rider. That is crazy. The judges are definitely keeping it strict out there. We have Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Romilad Norol, Marcus Wilkes, and Christy Hughes are our judges as Kevin Peraza gets shot out of the cannon for run 2.
Yeah, Peraza, wow, going so far down.
Now let's see if Kevin can channel his energy and focus right here. A rider can get so thrown off if they slip a pedal. You sometimes see their frustration and they'll call it, but Peraza able to get back in it.
Oh, nice line right there, out of the wall, into the hip.
Yeah, that was some style, definitely showing his trails influence. Opposite carve. Peraza.
Yeah, to a double pocket, love that.
That was a cool move, even though we're only in our second heat. I have a feeling that is going to be a highlight line of the entire contest.
540 bar spin into a nose bunk 360, double whip on that quarter pipe. A 180 half cab in, finishing it off with maybe one more trick here for Peraza.
Yeah, pressing that front wheel, 540 across the box in that balance point. You start to see some other riders do that. Earlier we saw Joel Bondu do a Peake do a hang 5 version of that. But Peraza was the first rider to melt minds many years ago with that 540 balance point as he does that G-turn into it. Let's take a look at that 360 table with the tail whip before it. He landed a little flat. That's where his pedal wound up slipping, but he was able to put his Vans waffle right back on it as he cruises with the 360 bar spin to tabletop. And look at the highlight here. Pocket, this time he lands in the proper radius and carves around our honor capsule and then just charges right out with that double tail whip. And here's a look at that tech front wheel balance, finds the pivot point, and then just jumps smoothly into the landing.
Kevin Peraza definitely has his own unique way of tackling a course, but as well keeping his style and staying up with the tricks, and it's rewarding him here only with a 67.80. It has to go to consequence, probably with that first 360 tail up to invert, slipping the pedals. That is really going to be the do or die moment in Peraza's run. Unfortunate right there. So that was the second run down. He's only sitting in 6th place. Jack Clark now testing his luck at run number 2. Let's see how the young Brit does coming out of the gate with a big flare here.
Jack Clark grabbing the lighter and sparking the fuse on his second run. Look at that, 2 for 2 on the style factor with that upside down 360 tabletop. You might even want to call that thing a backflip, because Clark now is charging with that 360 bar spin to turn down. Ryan, I know Jack is always one of our favorites to watch because of that style factor. How important do you think that's going to be for our judges?
Well, definitely watching these freestyle disciplines. We've mentioned in the past, obviously you can have a different line selection out there on course, but putting forward as well just trick machines as if you're a video game isn't going to only score you points. You have to find a way to show your own personality out there on course. And that's what Jack is doing. He puts a little bit of his tweak and trick into each one of his maneuvers out there.
Ooh.
Just like that 540 tuck no-hander.
Wow, getting that circle and a half, putting the hips right in the bars. Didn't get the full extension on the arms, but still a very cool trick. We've seen Jack do the bar spin 540 before, but that was a very cool way to end it after the 60 seconds. That is beautiful. Upside down, you talk about personality, and that is a big one out on the course with that 360 table upside down.
Now you see all of these highlights, just has a little bit of Jack Clark in each and every one of them. Even that suicide no-hander, not seeing many of the top pros throwing that in one of their professional runs out here. Jack finds a time for even one of those little hits to get some of those tricks off. Says, yeah, I like doing these things and I want to do them in my contest run. Let's see how we can get good points with the judges. He's gonna wait though, as Jack is qualified not in one of the top spots. He's trying to up this score. Currently, Jack is sitting with 46.4 after run number 2. Where will the judges seat him?
The moment of truth, right? We're waiting for these scores to come in. Jack is going to want to put something up, hopefully 80s or higher. Camp Peake sitting in the top spot with the 79. We are seeing our judges be very strict with the points that are given out. Again, 5 judges under the watchful eye of Bart Zhang, who is the UCI.
Oh, and we have a new leader. Hopefully in the 80s he is. 80.20. Jack Clark is in the hot seat, folks.
Jack Clark, first rider to crack the 80s. Well, a rider who has the abilities. I'm just going to say that for everyone that's here in our semi. This is insane, right? Well, every rider could basically win this contest, and we're not even in the finals yet.
Everyone has a track record and resume to say that.
We're talking about the new proud papa, Jeremy Mallet, out there, 360 double tail whip.
Smart move, maybe staying and taking out that bar spin to make sure that he solidifies one run in there. Was that a double or a triple tail? Things happen so quickly there.
We're going to have to see the replay on that, but that's an interesting strategy you're talking about, Ryan. It's that basic slide between risk and reward. A rider's got to find that sweet spot, because if they wind up doing too many tricks that are too difficult and they wind up crashing, they don't necessarily get that full score, which unfortunately just happened for Jeremy.
Oh, that's a huge upset.
Yeah, that is disappointing.
We're looking forward to see Jeremy on top here. He's been having such a great season. Whoa! Tossing it anyways with that big 540 flare just for the crowd.
Yeah, Ryan, we know if this was any other contest, maybe a few years ago before the Olympics were involved, the crash wouldn't penalize that much. But as we've seen throughout our series, we first started off in Hiroshima, Montpellier, and then Edmonton. Our judging criteria with the UCI has just been upped and upped and upped. Same with the expectations of our riders. Here's a look at that triple tail whip over the hip. That was 1, 2, 3 times around. Here's a look at that flare tail whip. Not able to get the feet on. You just see that floundering a little bit, but this was after the crash. So Jeremy, 45, very disappointing in his scores, but big ups and respect. Jeremy's been riding really great this season. We mentioned he's recently a father, and that has fueled his riding like no other. Well, one rider remains of heat number 2. This is the United States, Colton Walker. Colton, 60 seconds, starts now.
Wow. Oh, just really going for big tricks out here. You know, one thing that we will note, we don't have necessarily that full size box jump that we are used to having at maybe Montpellier. So a lot of these riders are going for some of these big box jump tricks, but maybe not having the exact amplitude that they're looking for out there.
Yeah, Ryan, that's a really good point. We saw earlier in the year at our first stop in Hiroshima, we actually didn't have any box jump out there, and it threw a lot of our riders almost for a loop. And our first place finisher out in Hiroshima was none other than Brandon Lupos, who wound up flowing around the course and not relying on the big box jump tricks. And then we saw over in Edmonton, we had a lot more of the boxes out there. And again, this is almost a blend, a hybrid of the two, where we do have a box, but it's not what you talked about, that big step-up signature box of the Feast World Series. So it's not giving the riders the hang time that they're used to. You can kind of see that in the gauging of the speed coming down off the vert wall. Some riders throw a pedal, some are kind of coasting, but trying to find that sweet spot with that hang time doesn't take away from the course. It's just a different feature, and you got to bring a different skill set.
And I mean, folks watching this at home, maybe you're thinking, oh, that might be a bit unfair. Why would they do that, especially on a contest where now the points are being tallied up for the Olympics? Well, you have to keep in mind that this is a 5-stop World Series, and throughout the different stops that we have, all these courses are different, and they're catering to different riding styles. So it is actually fair. It's showing the most all-around, well-rounded rider for the tour, and that's going to be the person that ends up on top at the end of this series.
So right now, Kevin Peraza, that double downside 360 tail whip, the Mongoose rider, pocket in. There you see where he had the difficulty. He was so focused on getting that second loop that he was off on the radius. Here's a look at Jack Clark as the UK goes over the hip with that invert 450. Here's a look at Jeremy Mallett having a little difficulty. Same goes with Colton Walker, the backflip going around with the tail whip and the bar spin. Walker downside 360 tail whip, slipping that pedal. Alley-oop over the hip. Back end of the frame, kicks out, meets in the middle. Look at Peraza, that is beautiful. Even though he slipped the pedal, that is so crazy to get your body and bike tweaked and twisted that way.
Here we go, that was the time, doing the double loop right there.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of the entire contest. I'm gonna call that out even as we have our first 2 heats of 6 down. I mean, that is such a cool line. Again, this course is constructed just for this event, and that's a good point that you brought up. If somebody's saying, hey, well, why don't they have that box jump? Well, it is freestyle, and I know it might be like, hey, Captain Obvious, but no, that's what this is about. It's about bringing your own thing. You don't necessarily have to be doing all jumping tricks out there. It's whatever, this is your canvas. Whatever you want to create out there, you can. You just have to wind up having it say, how does that judge up against the other riders?
And as we work through the field of athletes out here, you'll really notice some of the top riders, I think, that put their runs together yesterday. You're going to see what we're talking about when Daryl is saying, you know, that they're going to be able to go out and showcase a different line selection. Someone that really comes to mind is our first place qualifier, Dennis Enerson. He really does justice on picking lines that a lot of us wouldn't even see when we look at a course like this. But a man who is known for doing some of the largest tricks in BMX from the United States of America, this is none other than Brian Fox.
The big boy from Deerfield Beach, Florida. I know his dad right now is saying, Brian, let's see the heat, bringing it out, 720 with a bar spin. He was the rider that brought the banger to Montpellier, who did that double backflip transfer as he gets a suicide no-hander. Look at the speed. Oh!
Going down there, clipping on that off, calling it. Oh, that's a hard walk away. You saw he was coming into the hip section, so that box jump has 2 lips, if you've noticed from that camera angle. One goes straight on with the black lip that he's going up right now, and the one to the left of the screen, the gray lip, it's a hip to the left. And he went to do actually a hip flip that went the opposite way. He would have to do a bit extra rotation, and with that actually ended up hanging up a tiny bit on the landing.
Yeah, Ryan, what you talk about hanging up, that's if you don't clear all the way to the deck. Now watch his back wheel. Oh, yeah, you want to clear into that transition point so you can keep your speed and momentum. The jolting force wound up blowing him off to the side right there. So a 19.80, but that smile is plastered on the face. The heart is being shown. Brian Fox, always a crowd favorite because he absolutely loves the fans who comes out to all of the Feast World Series. Well, another rider that we saw in our bangers, he did the Twix, which is the tail whip bar spin with the extra tail whip going on. This is the young guy coming all the way from Virginia Beach, Justin Dowell.
Justin Dowell, I saw him ripping on his scooter to get over here, BMX bike, tied to the back of it.
Now, I believe when you say scooter, you're talking about an electric scooter.
Yes,
which some might call a moped back home. A lot of our riders taking advantage of the affordable electronics here in China and actually buying mopeds just for the weekend. So Dowell's going to wave it. So now one thing I want to highlight, a lot of our riders, when they wind up having difficulty, they will wave off their run. That's because they know it's a best run format. But you know what, if we're going to talk strategy, sometimes the second run can play factor if you wind up having a tiebreaker and need to go and revert to that second run score. So it is a little bit of a strategy in there, but I think for a lot of our riders, they're so hyper-focused, trying to get that perfection, that we actually might wind up seeing under that pressure why our scores also aren't as consistent from the riders that we're used to being out there. There's a whole different ball game and a lot of pressure that's really starting.
You notice a lot of pressure that the riders put on themselves as well. As you see Justin Dowell there with a lot of emotion after his run. They're really focused, and you love to see the passion actually that these riders put into the contest. You know, they have their hearts in it, and a man who's had his heart in the sport of BMX and two-wheeled action sports in general for decades. This is the legend that the man has a household name now. This is Ryan Nyquist.
Yes, Nyquist letting him rip with the backflip double bar spin. Yes, you did say decades, and yes, you did not have to correct your hearing. This is Ryan Nyquist. You remember him from the 90s, the early 2000s, and now in 2018, looking to qualify big flare. Nyquist, no signs of slowing down as he does a backflip bar spin. One-handed X up, about to round that 30-second mark with a bar spin transfer. Nyquist coming in. Oh, nice step up right there. He opted for the hip, coming up with the bar spin 540.
I just love how you're saying that. Been riding in professional contests and winning them globally since the 90s, and throwing signature tricks like that that have stood the test of time. 360 signature, pinch the seat, suicide no hand, double bar spin right there.
Ooh, 360 one-handed X up, full extension to a double bar spin. Wow, listen to the crowd here in CHENGDU showing respect to the legend of Ryan Nyquist. Now, to some of our newer fans of BMX, one thing I want to note is when Nyquist exploded onto the scene from Northern California, he was the first rider to really bring bar spins to such consistencies and throwing them in every single trick. You can see the way that he still has his bike set up with a higher seat post, a bigger seat, and knee pads. That's able to pinch the seat with his knees and stabilize the front end. So Ryan has stuck to his style all these years later. And we're going to see if that is going to be favored, as we do have our 5 judges trying to figure out the numeric value. The score to beat is 80.20 by Jack Clark, as Nyquist right here is thinking, what is it going to be? Taking a look, you see in all of our stands out there, there's just a small fraction of our fan base. And the cool thing is the fact that we are so global on our Feast World Series, but also the fact that we are going towards the Olympics. A lot of country delegates are out here trying to put together and piece together their freestyle program for the next years to come, not only for Tokyo 2020, but moving forward after that. So a lot of times when it takes a moment for our judges to factor the score and to say, hey, what's going on out there, that's because they're trying to see where will that score place? Where will that fit? How will Ryan's judge not only against his own riding, but they got to see where it will fit in against all other riders. There's 24 of them competing, 2 runs out there. That's 48 runs. And look at this, Nyquist with a 79.80. Wow, Nyquist, he's giving a little bit of a head nod out there.
Nyquist doing justice, still up there. I mean, the man has it, I think, as well coaching our females.
Well, right now, a man who needs no coaching. This is the Australian who got first place out in our first stop in Hiroshima. This is Brandon Lupos with a 360 double bar spin. Lupos, born in Sydney, Australia, was just down there for the Australian X Games flare tail whip. Look at the height off axis backflip, double tail whip. We talked about Lupos having that flow, height, and style in Hiroshima. Let's see if this course that has a little taste of that will favor his style. Cash roll.
Beautiful cash roll right there on the box, still carrying his momentum and coming back around course right now. There's that double tail whip pushing into a huge tuck no-hander, great amplitude.
Let's see if Lupos can keep it going. The 19 seconds, we talk about how important these moments are as he transfers up. Lupos, flare on the top. We talk about risk and reward. That was his opposite direction. Lupos, no-hander over the extended spine. Tail whip transfer, and that is time for Lupos.
Lupos holding it even after the clock, doing that flip fly out. Still showing the judges that he has the endurance to stay the full time frame. 360 double bar spin there, having to go a little over-rotated with that hip one. Some beautiful style out of the young guy, and especially big tricks like that cash roll.
Yeah, we talk about the risk reward. Now, Ryan, if a rider puts down maybe the first 30 or 40 seconds that they want to do and they go, uh-oh, I still got more time, that's when they're going to want to balance out that risk reward to see where they can fit. Now, again, Jack Clark, the only rider to bump into the 80s with that 80.20. That shows you how strict the judging is being out here. Now, Lupos did put in that full run. He didn't crash, he didn't put anything down, and he had some really big tricks out there.
Yeah, one thing that I would note is that he did have a much bigger trick in his entire run, for instance, that cash roll, than what Jack Clark did. But, like we were talking about before, there's a heavy influence on style here and where that's going to push, and it's not going to reward Brandon Lupos enough. He's getting there, the 78.4, good enough for 4th place right now.
So that means we're going to go back to the top of the list for heat number 3. We are looking at Radio Bike's Brian Fox. He is getting ready. You see the USA flag. You see the cheering on, getting the crowd backing Brian Fox. Brian Fox loving the Feast World Series. I feel like he was made for competition, not only with his riding, just the energy that he exerts.
Oh, holding on to that cork 720 bar spin. He pulled a bit too hard on that one. I thought he was going to hang up with his nose, but ended up holding 4th.
Making it exciting as this time he opts for just the backflip without the bar spin all the way around the honor capsule. Brian is known for his big rotations, not only in the backflip axis, but also a 360 axis.
Wow.
Yes!
No, just sliding out on that as well. Brian Fox, unfortunate, is still having the best time out there. Huge crowd flavor.
Well, he might win. He's not going to win the BMX portion of the contest, but definitely could win the dance move competition.
Definitely crowd favorite right out there. Brian Fox just has an incredible passion for the sport of BMX and always showcasing that. One of the most friendly competitors, always willing to send a helping hand to his competitors as well.
Yeah, very cool to see him not go down, but to come up with a smile like that. I know there's a lot of heart and energy out here and a lot of focus. But let's look at that 720 with the bar spin. Brings the handlebars right up to his lap. You can see it actually touch his pelvis. He hung up, but was able to keep cruising. There's a look at the backflip tail whip with the transfer. And then his body English was a little off to the side. And then there is the slow-mo on the worm. Look at the technique right there. And then popping up to the feet, throwing out the double finger to the crowd.
He practices in the mirror at home, doesn't he? You do. Brian, we know what you do. Okay, well, getting back to it, that was a second run down, and disappointing for us, but Brian still is having a good time out there on course. Next up, who are we going to have? Justin Dowell. Justin was quite frustrated, actually, after calling it off from his last run. Didn't quite get what he wanted. He wants perfection out here. Let's see if he can do it in Chengdu.
60 seconds starts now with that 360 bar spin and a tail whip all in that medley. As Dowell comes back, 360, cranking backwards, known as the look back.
Beautiful look to the line and into a perfect flare bar spin right there. I believe that was alley-oop into a 450 over that hip, hitting the sub box here, going for some nice tech tricks and tech line hits, getting a lot of jumps into one line right there.
Dowell jumping in, this time going around the pocket. You see a different approach than Kevin Peraza in the pocket, but still jumping over. Dowell coming up with the bar spin to X up. Maybe it was a bar spin to bar spin back. A little hard to see from our house. Backflip bar spin. Dowell right now actually accelerating in his run with the final 8 seconds to go. Let's see if he could pull in a few extra points. Looking backwards.
Big look back, and the last trick, a tail whip, and that one's gonna count definitely at the buzzer right there for Justin Dowell. Head shake, it wasn't maybe exactly what he wanted.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't the run Dowell was looking for, but we talk about the judges' score being strict, and we talk about the pressure being on for all of our riders out here, whether it's self-imposed, whether it's saying, hey, this is the last stop of the Feast World Series, or if it's saying that this is the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup going on, first time for points towards the Olympics. There's a lot of pressure. So we might even see, as we progress through, a lot of the riders kind of start fumbling, as you would say, and dropping the ball as their scores come. There is a look at the crowd as we look up there, seeing so many different riders in the house. That is Daniel Wiedemeyer in the front row. He was the one on our bangers section going for that Fufanu on the back rail. Seeing everyone down there having a good time.
Hervé, the owner and the founder of FIS organization up there as well, coming to all the stops of the FIS. We have many disciplines going on out here. If you guys are just tuning in, we are live in Chengdu for the last stop of the FIS World Series. It's the semifinals, of course, of the BMX Freestyle Park Men's. We're going to have the finals for the women tomorrow morning, so make sure you guys tune in. That is UC time. This is China time. I believe it's going to be happening around 9 o'clock.
Well, Ryan, the good thing is we did all the work for you. Feast.tv, you can actually see the different time zones around the world with the complete schedule up there. So you don't even have to do the math of crunching the numbers. It's all on Feast.tv.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, Daryl.
Well, the thing that we want to say right now is the legend of Ryan Nyquist getting ready for his second run. I like to say it's the eye of Nyquist, similar to the eye of the tiger, as the Northern California rider comes in. Backflip double bar spin. Now, one thing to mention, since it's a best run format that counts, we might see riders take a similar approach on the course. They are not going to be penalized if they do the same run as they did their first, because it's not the overall approach. But Nyquist flare on the elevated catwalk, back over with the flip.
Yeah, Nyquist taking a different line selection with a bit less tricks. Kind of just flowing this one a bit more. He got, I think, the run in the bag that he wanted. Scored accordingly. He's currently sitting in second place right now.
Nyquist going 3 transfer.
You see Ryan floating across the course of the transfer. Yeah, it looks like he's going to wind up calling this. So Nyquist's first score has him currently sitting in second place. But you know, when we have this many riders, 24 to be exact, so Ryan being a rider, 23 others, the whole pack can shift. I don't care that we already went through part of heat number 1, 2, and 3. When we've seen this before, there's still 12 other riders to go. So technically Ryan, even though he's sitting high, could get bumped out. Obviously, we do not want that to happen, but every score could matter out there. But the score that will matter most will be Ryan's first score of that 79.80. Ryan's such a legend of BMX.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that in the first run when he came up and did that 360 suicide no-handed double bar spin. I remember purchasing a PlayStation just to play Dave Mura Pro BMX. The late great, rest in peace, Dave. But I love doing that trick. I would just ride Ryan Nyquist to Woodward East dirt trails and just do that trick over and over again. I thought it was the coolest thing, and I still think it's the coolest thing. So Ryan, thank you for doing it for decades, coming out here and throwing a show for us.
Ryan out there showing off a little bit of his physique. But the rider looking to show off his physique in run at number 2 is Australian's Brandon Lupos. Right now he's sitting in 6th overall for points. He does have that first place finish at Hiroshima. 360 double bar spin. If he is able to go in the finals, I know that a score will move him up drastically in points. Lupos, 540 flare. Down the catwalk with the backflip tail whip. Lupos very smooth right here. You see there's no pedals after he lands. This is reminiscent of that Hiroshima run where he's just controlled. Cash roll. Yes, Lupos. Quick checking in with the double tires on the wall as Lupos tail whips 2 times over the hip. Look at this flow from Lupos. Again, that was the deciding factor out in Hiroshima, more so than the tricks that he was throwing down. Yo, another 540 flare, landing a little hard. Double tire ride, that was in his non-traditional direction. Final thought from Lupos, flare on that thin, narrow quarter. And Sydney's, Australia's Brandon Lupos getting that second run. So just to recap, 78.4 was his first run. Run number 2, I definitely dig the style of run 2 with the landings you saw after coming from that 360 double bar spin. Pumped confidently into the landing, standing up straight, building that speed. As Lupos here is at that cash roll coming around. You talked about being one of his bigger tricks in the run, Ryan.
Yeah, amazing trick ability right to the very end there for Lupos. You see Jack Clark is staying on top strong at that 80.2. Lupos, if he's wanting to have a shot, he really wants to push forward and get somewhere close to that 80s. That's obviously what he's gunning for, is passing Jack Clark right now. He's currently sitting in 5th place, waiting for the scores to come in.
This is always the nail-biting moment for our riders. They put down, poured all their heart for the run, seeing what is going to be the fate from the judges. So a 78.40, that is going to be an improvement, but not much. He's going to be sitting in that 5th spot, so Lupos is going to be sitting off to the side, biting his nails, determining if he'll still slide in there. We have 24 riders in our semifinal. Top 12 will be making it to the finals, as we are taking a look at the battlefield here at our Feast World Series. One of the largest action sports festivals in the world. We have 4 stops. If you want to know how to get involved, it is so simple. Go to feast.tv or feast.fr. You can see all schedule and information, contest results, behind the scenes gallery, and link to all of our online channels. One of them being our YouTube page at Feast, where you can see highlights of today's events and also all the stops accumulating up to our finals here. As we look at Brandon Lupos on that 360 double bar spin, here's a look at that cash roll. Double whip over the hip, right into the no-hander. So smooth the way he was able to link those together, but here is Brian Fox, the 720 bar spin. looking back. Justin Dowell right there.
Big look back on that air, and here is Lupos with that big casserole run number 1. As well, that 540 flare, some huge tricks, but that just shows the difficulty. Lupos only staying with the 78.4. These are the scorings after.
Taking a look, Jack Clark holding strong, only rider in the 80s, 80.20. Ryan Nyquist, Cam Peake, Justin Dowell, Brandon Lupos, Colton Walker, Kieran Reilly, Joel Bondu, Anthony Jean-Jean, Kevin Peraza, Jeremy Malat, and Brian Fox is sitting there in the 12th spot. So we had 12 riders go, 12 are going to make it to the finals. As we witness our top 12 qualifiers, we are going to see that pack get shaken up. Again, they are looking for perfection, and who is they? Talking about our 5 judges: Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Romilad Norol, Marcus Vilke, and Christine Hughes.
And so that starts the halfway point, and we are starting with our 4th heat now. This is Jake Leva about to drop in.
So Jake living out in Tehachapi, California by Woodward West. We saw Jake come into his own voice earlier this year. A rider sometimes develops their own style and just finds their own signature. And we've been seeing that with Jake, not only in our best trick competitions, but solid riding throughout the season.
And there's one, wow, triple tail whip. That was a huge one coming from Jake Leva. I was just gonna say, he's waving off this run. Things ended for him when he tagged that extended spine, as we were calling it out there. So unfortunate for him there, but still getting a banger trick off, putting a little muscle memory to work. We're gonna have to hold it and wait and see what he has for run number 2, but let's take a look at some of these highlights. Here was that 360 tail whip that ended terribly wrong, somehow still held up on, still held on to that one.
I mean, and the fact you say still hung on, that's a big extended spine that's over 6 feet tall, so almost 2 meters tall. And the fact that it's blind on the other side and just as steep on your landing. So for all of our riders out there who have gone over a regular spine, you know it can be a little stressful, but throw a big deck in between and you have to, very difficult to find that precision. Your margin of error decreases with the steepness of your landing out there. So Jake, that score is going to be a 28.80. Jake currently is sitting in 14th in our overall points as we work into our last stop. Again, for all of our riders, if they can make it into the final, it could be crucial to grab some of those overall points.
So you see right there, the score coming in for Jake Leva is a 28 even. I'm not sure if we actually told you who is going to be riding in heat number 4 here. They went on course, did their training, but next up you see, of course, Kostya Andreev is going to be followed by Ernest Zebold and Marin Rantes. That's going to round up heat number 4, but right now it's going to be about Kostya Andreev and see what the Russian stallion can get out of his bag. 360 tail whip to tuck no hander on the quarter pipe. 360 bar spin back up. Huge flare tail whip, really stomping the landing and the pedals there. Bar spin to tuck no hander coming over and into that UCI sub box. Nice line coming up for a double hit with that double tail whip.
Yeah, Kostorev going big, bar spin 360. He has the ability to do aerial maneuvers and also the same technical tricks on the lip of a ramp. It has been favoring very well for Kostra as he is an 18th overall for the season. Quick opposite wall ride right there, one-handed tabletop. Bar spin 450. The reason it's a 450, that's over a hip, so you add 90 degrees to the 360. Quick little nose bump, and that is time for Russia. Kostya Andreev.
So Kostya having a full pull right there.
So that's going to be a very important factor, that full pull, this full 60 seconds, able to utilize to the end. Even if a rider isn't getting all the tricks that they want to do. What we're seeing out here, Ryan, if they don't crash, and maybe even if they pull back the risk reward as far as the levers go, we've seen some of the riders earlier in the stop, they maybe did a triple tail whip or a bar spin after a double tail whip. But if they just scale it back a little bit and can ride consistent, we're seeing the scores reflect that.
Kostya's waiting for his score to come in after heat number 1. We are just past the halfway mark in our semifinals of the UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup Pro Men's Division. Score to beat right now is from none other than Great Britain's Jack Clark, currently with an 80.2. That's the score that Kostya is looking to beat. Not sure if he can make it there, and it isn't. He's going to be good enough for 14th right now with a 28.8. Oh no, pardon me. That's good enough for 7th place there with a 76.7 from Kostya. That is where he is going to stand. Pardon me and reading the graphics wrong on screen there. Ernest Zabel, though, going to be up next from Latvia.
Yeah, always a treat to watch. 360 bar spin to turn down. Bar spin to no-hander. Definitely a new name on the Feast World Series. That was a 180 over the box jump, but backwards. 180, wow. Double bar spin, and then doing that cab around. Look at the energy. Not only is he super technical, but Z-Bolt's out here just confident.
Mid-run 180 over the box jump backwards. That's incredible.
We talk about risk versus reward. Z-Bolt is just throwing out the risk part and saying, let me turn things up. Look at the energy. This is a huge run right now. Tail whip up, 15 seconds, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down with that 540 bar spin. Z-Bolt's bar spin over, 270 down, no-hander, turn down. And a final thought with the no-hander.
Tuck no-hander, fakie into the corner with a whip. Wow, that is an ender.
That was a very, very unique run out there. I mean, every box was checked. All the requirements we talked for a big score were there. We talked about that a rider didn't necessarily have to just jump the box jump or do what everyone else is out there. Ernest Z-Bolt had his own voice out on the course. Look at the 360 bar spin into the turn down. Look at the 180 landing on the steepest transition backwards over that box jump. Here's a look at the 360 double bar spin. Looking back, so smooth.
So what we're saying is huge tricks, originality, difficulty in the line selection, complete originality in tricks like this, where we're not seeing anyone else in the contest doing such maneuvers.
And then a full use of the clock. That tail whip was going backwards.
Oh, and a score to reward high into the 80s, an 86.6. We have a new leader, Ernest Zabel. He is taken away himself.
Yes, Latvia right now is standing up loud and proud. Look at that. And I got to tell you, if this were any other contest that we've had on the Feast World Series, that score would be well into the 90s.
Yeah,
we have seen the judging criteria right here be super strict and super focused because the fact we've got UCI and we're going towards the Olympics. But that is cool, and that is showed by Latvia's Ernest Z-Bolt that you can basically have your own voice out there. You don't have to do all the same tricks the riders are doing, and you can go out there with style and make it happen.
Wow, that definitely puts some pressure onto these next riders coming up. We picked this one up in Croatia, coming from the Pannonian Challenge. This is Marin Rantes, the #1 BMX freestyle athlete out there on the Croatian scene, and a man who has some of the highest difficulty tricks in his bag of sleeves.
Ooh, that was 1, 2, 3 times around. Marin Rantes currently sitting in 3rd for our points overall. Ooh, setting up big.
360 double tail whip. So the second round hitting into that box jump feature, getting some speed and gonna hit the hip side of the box jump now. 360 double bar spin to tuck no-hander. alley-oop tail whip air onto that quarter pipe.
The Croatian rider right now at that halfway mark, double bar spin, looking confident out here.
That was a triple tail whip down that step down.
That's insane to throw a triple right there. That deck is only 6 inches long. Foot jam. We talk about it being so important. The final 10 seconds and a tail whip backflip. That was huge. Double whip on the quarter pipe. Is there going to be an exclamation point? No hander. And that is time. Very big run here for Marin Rantish. Wow, we're talking about Marin Rantish having a great season so far. He actually got 3rd in FIS Montpellier, and then in Edmonton got a 2nd place. So he is sitting very high, 3rd currently overall. Look at that transfer. That was a step down because he came off the step up, which is on that elevated catwalk, spotting the landing perfectly as he rotated the bars around. It gave him the height, and this time on that transfer to do the double bar spin to tuck no hander, you have a lot less time while you're transferring because it's not that step down, but Marin Rantish getting it done.
So Marin Rantish, it's very difficult to now dissect these athletes' runs as they're so unique and so incredible in their own respect. But as we just watched Ernest go down and do his very unique line selection and difficult tricks on these runs, I have to wonder, how are the judges scoring Marin Rantish with an 83 even? It's good enough for 2nd.
That's got to be a good feeling, getting 1 run in and having a high score, sitting in that 2nd place, because we talk about strategy, but right now when the pressure is on, we've got Jake Leva having to deliver, not having that full 1st run.
So Jake going for a different start to his run here, hitting the walls, having a real nice creative side to the course.
Yeah.
Yes, getting that 360 tail whip with time. 3 double downside. Coming back into a different section of the course. Nice alley-oop 360 up that transfer. Wow! Yes, Jake Leva, backflip, double tail whip with some great transfers in there.
Yeah, Jake right here going up. What's it going to be? Backflip dropping in.
Wow, that was a risky maneuver.
We sometimes see riders start with that, Ryan, in the beginning of their run, but to do it this far in when you're gassed and winded, that is a very difficult move.
Okay, that was a really, really solid run from Jake Leva. Ticked all my boxes for line difficulty and selection and fluidity through the park, as well had some amazingly high difficulty tricks, but some unique ones. Let's take a look at some replays from that run number 1 of Jake.
Yeah, Ryan, now the start, each rider can pick their own vantage point on the course that they want to start their run at. I like that Jake opted for the wall ride, hitting both of them in the beginning. There's the 360, kicking that frame down in the tail whip. There is a backflip double tail whip. And here's a look at the backflip bomb drop coming in. Shout out to the late, great Dave Mira, the first rider to ever do that off the sub box. And we saw Jake do that with 15 seconds to go in his run. That is a difficult thing because you are winded and you have to have that mental focus, knowing you're going to get around on the flip to spot the landing.
This might be a little nitpicky, but in the replays there, did see that Jake Leva did slip a pedal on that 360 double downside whip. This is something that the judges are really going to be looking for. They're really looking for perfection. But Jake Leva, 83.60, stepping up into 2nd place. Well-deserved score.
So now we look, 86, 83, 83, 80. So we have 4 scores that are in the 80s right now. We are starting to see a full picture as we go through, but the Russian Kostya Andreev is going to have a chance for his 2nd run. First was a 76.7.
Posture right there.
So we talk about technique out here. Since it's the best run format, riders can opt to do the same run they did the first time. They don't have to take a different approach on their 2nd run like Jake did. It's really up to them. You could see a rider do the same exact run and maybe throw an extra bar spin in, maybe go a foot higher on a trick, and their score is not going to be penalized by having the repetitive nature.
Kostya starting it big right there. 3-whip to tuck no-hander. Bar spin to tuck no-hander. Pardon me. 360 bar spin to tail whip. I believe downside right there. And then into a 360 transfer from that spine lip into the box jump landing. Big combinations from the Russian.
Let's see where he's going. Transfer, floating smooth 360 bar spin to that tuck no-hander around our honor capsule. 360 bar spin, landing a little flat. Now see, that's gonna zonk a lot of his energy right there. 60 seconds is a long time. He wasn't able to get the speed to get over the box. Falling right there.
Unfortunate, that was at the 10-second mark of Kostya's run. Really killing the last speed. Oh, and going for the lip tricks. Kostya is known for having these mini ramp skills as well, especially in the lights in Montpellier.
You can see as you look into the crowd, that was Jamie Bestwick out on the deck. He is actually our team manager for Great Britain out there, but we're looking at Russia's Kostya Andreev. Bar spin 360 with the tuck no-hander. As we wait for scores going in, you're seeing a little overview in Chengdu, China here at our Action Sports Festival. 4 of 4 stops around the world. As we've got our Flatlanders warming things up. You can check out the full schedule on feast.tv to follow all the action. So Kostya Andreev, 76.70.
Check this out. So y'all might want to check this out. CHENGDU China, let's make some noise.
Here we go, Ernest Seibold, your current hot seat leader right now, on course to that 360 bar spin to turn down. Tuck no-hander, and does he go for it? Yeah, with a bar spin this time. Oh!
Wow, turning it up. We talk about, as far as strategy goes, the fact he got the 180 smooth in his first run. He tried to throw the bar spin, which obviously increases the difficulty. But we are seeing all the energy come out, getting that cab around. This is so difficult to do. Let's see what's going on.
Amazing. There's that 360 bar spin to tuck no-hander. He's just elated and on fire. You can see the excitement in his riding right now.
What I love about him is that fact he's so consistent on these tricks that you would maybe see more on a street course rather than a BMX park course, especially that 180 over the box jump, landing in backwards. That wasn't just 180ing the box jump forwards where the landing will be a lot more mellow and more conducive to potentially landing backwards. When you do that over the box jump, jumping it backwards, landing backwards on a steep landing, the margin of error is basically non-existent. It's paper thin, and trying to find that transition, he landed a little low, and then wound up getting a little bit of the wobbles, but watch how consistent he is. Double bar spin, landing backwards, and then doing a 540 around. This was a great run from the Latvian. I am loving seeing him out here. I hope that he's going to be at every stop next year in our World Series.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
is awesome.
It's a refreshing take at riding BMX Park. Ernest right now, he's going to be holding, of course, with his first run score in 86.6. Second run was basically a wipe after that crash, but holding strong right now in the hot seat. The Latvian is completely pumped right now on his performance, and very well should be.
Yeah, we saw Seibold earlier in Montpellier. That was his only other stop of the year. But our next rider we saw at all of our stops, we're talking about Marin Rantish. On screen, that's Eric Reizev, who is going to be in heat number 5.
And here we go, man.
But we are getting ready for Marin Rantish as he starts things off with a triple bar spin, 360 transfer over that step down again. So let's see if Rantish changes his technique. He is sitting in 3rd. Whoa!
Wow, Marin.
That was 1, 2, 3 times around on the tail whip 360. Rantish has an 83 in his first run. Now you'd think that he's going to be sitting in a good spot. Most likely that score will be enough to qualify him for the finals. But anything goes out here at the Feast World Series. We saw in our qualifier yesterday The level of riding was insane. Nick Bruce, our top our top points leader, didn't even make it into our semifinal. So it looks like Marin Rantish will wind up waving off the rest of his run. He's confident in his first run score as we wind up having our next 4 riders take the course, practicing for heat number 5 as we get ready to re-rack the deck and bring it in for our last 8 riders to find out who of the 24 will be the 12 qualifying for our finals. But let's look at this highlight right here. 360 bar spin, 1, 2, 3 times on that step down, finding the smooth line between the white lines for that landing. Same on the 360 triple tail whip. So Croatia's own Marin Rantish out there. 83 will be the score that sticks. Look at that, Z Bolds, the 86.60 in top. Jake Leva sitting there in second and Marin Rantish in third. So all of our crowd out here, you can see Alessandro Barbero, Italy's own. He was in our qualifier, just missed making it in by 1 or 2 points. Always great having Alessandro here at the FIS World Series. He actually won our Montpellier stop not too many years ago, so it's awesome that he is competing out here. One of our favorites bringing the style. But let's take a look at the standings. Z Bolds jumping up there with an 86.60. Jake Leva, 83.60. Marin Rantish with an 83. And Jack Clark with an 80.20. Nyquist, Peake, Dowell, Lupos, Walker, Andre Eve, Kieran, and Bondu are your top 12 currently sitting there. But as you look closer to that top 12 spot, you are going to be biting your nails because we are only taking 12 into the final, and we have 8 riders who have yet to take the course.
You guys are watching a lot of riding going out there. We have some highlights playing for you right now from our heat number 4 that just went down. But make sure you guys stay tuned and connect with us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at FIS.official, but as well, go onto our YouTube channel. It has a lot of nice interactive content and video links. You just have to type in FIS, that's F-I-S-E, very simple. But if you want to have a conversation with us, you want to get involved in the action, voice your concerns, tell us your opinions, go join us on Instagram at FIS World, as well hashtag your post FIS World and FIS Chengdu, especially for the entire World Series this year, FWS 18. Checking out some last highlight looks there. Here's Jake Leva with that backflip, double tail whip, and right mid-run of his run right there with the flip drop in. Shout out to Dave Mura, rest in peace. And here we go, Ernest right there with some of his highlights, I believe from run 1.
Well, if you are just joining us as we watch the rest of these highlights, this is the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup semi-final. This is stop 4 of 4 on the FIS World Series. We have 8 more riders that remain. The format is 24 riders broken down to 6 different heats of 4 riders apiece. It is a 2-run format. Best run is going to count. We just had our 16 riders take the course. That means that the top 4 riders are going to be moving on to the final. That is unofficially. That will be Ernest Z. Bolds, Jake Leva, Marin Rantish, and Jack Clark are our top 4 riders sitting in that spot. But right now we are getting ready for Daniel Dares. You know that name because he is our 2017 defending champion. That is right. He won the points race overall for the FIS World Series. He is known for his focus, he is known for his commitment, and he's known for getting in the zone. And we can see that focus on his eyes right now as he is getting ready to unleash here in Chengdu for his first run. So Dares is dropping in from Venezuela, 720 off axis, currently living in North Carolina in the United States where he has his own skate park. The Daniel Dares Action Sports facility where riders can come and get a session with Daniel Dares when he's not competing, traveling around the world. Dares with the 360 bar spin coming up. Invert flare. Ooh, big step down at 360 double whip. So let's see if Dares takes his signature approach to a course. He is known to literally, if you would look at a bird's eye view, try to utilize every single obstacle on the course because he knows that the judges want to see a rider not stick to one or two obstacles out there. And we are seeing Dares put a lot of tricks down in this 60-second time. Hitting the pocket, bar spin, 450. Popping a flare, and that is a buzzer. And that is the full allotment of time. 60 seconds beginning to end for your defending 2017 Feast World Series champion. Dares currently is sitting second in points right now as we move in. Overall, it is Nick Bruce in first, Daniel Dares second, Marin Rankish in third, Logan Martin in fourth, and Justin Dowell in fifth in our points as we head in here. With Nick Bruce not qualifying, that is definitely going to potentially help Dares out if he is able to make it into that final spot.
Daniel Dares right there. You see the score to beat is Ernest Zabel at 86.6. Just saw an amazingly creative run out of the Latvian. Home of the Pandas, land of the Pandas, out here in Chengdu. Have a wild audience on lock coming out to join in the spectacle of all action sports. We have flatland going on as well out there in the audience. We're going to be doing skateboard finals later this evening. We have the women's professional finals of the UCI BMX Freestyle Park happening tomorrow morning as well. Make sure to tune in for the finals of the men's later. This is all going to be happening starting 9:45 a.m. Chinese time. So make sure you guys tune in. We've done all the math for you like Daryl has mentioned previously. Go online, follow us, figure out what time zone is going to work for you guys. Get up early, set the alarms, make sure you're there to watch.
So Daniel Dares' score came in, it's an 85.4. If you saw the tension release from his shoulders, that means that he is going to be qualifying for our final. We are taking 12, and he is sitting there in second place with that big score. Well, Daniel Sandoval in 2015 got second overall for our series, and Sandoval looking to charge with that 540 flare tail whip.
Wow. 360 bar spin to tail whip, but in a transfer. That was a nice transition definitely from Daniel Sandoval, a man who has basically defined the tricks of 360 downside tail whips.
Yeah, Sandoval so comfortable in the air, bring it to the park, transfer, a very cool line. Only rider we saw go over the catwalk right there. That was a very cool line. When you have 24 of the world's best out there and you haven't witnessed a transfer, that means that you're digging deep and that you're putting it all on the line. Bar spin opposite direction, enough time for a no-hander. And that is it for Sandoval.
Daniel Sandoval, solid run right there, getting some props from his teammates.
Let's look at the madness. 360 tail whip with the bar spin. There is wrapping around that head tube, downside 360 tail whip into that flare tail whip right there. Frame, I believe, around went 2 times. And there's the transfer, hanging up a little bit, still able to get the distance and get the gap. As we check off 2 riders of heat number 5. We have seen 18 riders on course. Sandoval from the United States calling California home.
Sandoval right there waiting in. What an incredible contest so far. It is just the semifinals. It feels like a finals as tension broods amongst the competitors going in. Second to last heat happening right now. Sandoval is the second rider to drop.
Sandoval currently sitting in 9th for points overall. In Edmonton, he got a well-deserved 4th place. You see all of our Flatlanders warming up as we look out into our Chinese crowd. So cool that we're here in our ecological art park in the Pidou district, just outside of city center. Wow, so an 80 for Sandoval. He looks happy with that score right there. So 6 riders are in the 80, and Daniel Sandoval proud to say that he is one of them. So right now our next rider, Kieran Reilly. He is from Russia, and he's currently sitting in 13th place for our overall points after 3 stops. Whoa! That was a triple tail whip 360. Toboggan having no trouble finding that transition of the steep landing. That 360 unlooked down. Carving around the bowl. Yes! Kicking that frame around 3 times again. Kieran Reilly. A few years ago, exploded onto the scene, able to put 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 tricks into one air on our big box jump, which shows you that he's okay, even though we don't have our signature step box jump out here. He is still putting the combinations together, even with less hang time.
Yeah, a very calculated rider this Russian is. He can get the amplitude and the tricks as well. Seems so composed for mostly all of his run, showing some nice lip tricks. That foot jam to can in. Kieran Reilly throwing the hands up, and that's going to do it for his first run. I've basically given up trying to figure out where the scores are going to go. That was an incredible run as well, starting with tricks like that 360 triple tail whip, that 360 unlook back, triple tail whip right there as well, 360 bar spin to tuck no hander. So many massive combinations. I'm just absolutely blown away that we have such talent out here in China today.
Yeah, we talk about him being a precise rider. You talk about strategy. He did not have any crashes, feet going down, and was able to utilize the entire 60 seconds. So if you were just joining us, the big news in BMX Freestyle 2020 Tokyo, that's right, the Olympics have welcomed with open arms BMX riding, also along with skateboarding. This is the first event that kicks off a points race that will count towards your potential country and or yourself getting in. If you want to find out any of the details, it's so simple, uci.org. You could pull up that page or tab while you're checking out our feastworldseries.com. Either page will have a lot of the info that's necessary and needed.
And the next rider up is going to be Kenneth Tencio out of Costa Rica. Starting it big, there we go, that signature drop in, flare drop in, and that Kenneth Tencio has dubbed his signature move, let's say. X up, going backwards on the box to get some speed. What does he have? 360 Superman seat grab without the, oh!
Tencio going down.
Ow. And we do have great medical staff. We do have a great medical staff out here, and we definitely saw a bit of contortion out there in Tencio as his leg got caught between the bike and the coping on top of that quarter pipe. Not a position that we want to see any rider in, but we do have the precautions taken. We'll take a look back at the highlight out here, that drop in, that flare, and that 360 Superman seat grab, an amazingly difficult trick.
And there's a look at that flare transfer, getting a little bit twisted with his leg right there.
Hopefully was on the bike after at the end. Yeah.
Hopefully, we've seen Kenneth before. He's a very tough guy and tough rider. Sometimes you have a lot of adrenaline pumping and also a little bit of disappointment for your run. So hopefully he'll get back up. But like you said, we do have some of the best medical staff in all of BMX and all of action sports out here to make sure that our riders are okay, not only in this competition and here this weekend, but to make sure that they can have a long career and give them the right guidance for getting back on up.
And he does look to be up just behind our leaderboard right there. Tencio is up. We're seeing right now, of course, Daniel Darius is the leader of this heat. Tensio getting his first run score in there, which is obviously not going to be up to snuff. I can see over the barriers here that Tensio is up, but he is hobbling off course. He must have really hurt his knee or stretched some ligaments out there. I'm hoping that he's going to be okay. That's not an injury that any athlete wants to take care of, especially leading into the Olympics.
Yeah, he's actually getting some more movement and range of motion, as just literally you were saying that right there. So who knows? Maybe we'll even get a chance to see him in his second run. Fingers are crossed, and that will be the case out there. Tensio did go for that big backflip transfer quarter to quarter pipe. Gonna give a moment and give a shout out to the late Colin Winkleman, the first rider to ever do that flare transfer quarter to quarter pipe like that. And we see Tensio trying to make it happen. Hung up a little bit, got twisted. Look at this, on his bike, putting the water in the back pocket. This most likely means he's gonna be riding his next run, which that is awesome to see. Talk about a big rider with a big heart, Kenneth Tensio. Well, right there is Daniel Dares. He is our defending 2017 champion. For the last couple of years, he's gone back and forth with Logan Martin. Logan won it in 2016 and 15, Dares in 2014. Dares is definitely a big competitor. If there's a major contest, he's been on top of the podium. He gets that focus. You saw that determination in his eyes before he took his first run. But he knows with the big score of his first run being an 85.40, he is automatically going to qualify into our final. Most likely we'll wind up seeing Daniel just kind of cruise the course. We talk about him being a very strategic rider. We know if he winds up maybe putting down some big tricks right now, there's not really a point or reason to, and he can potentially get hurt for the final. So yeah, that's what we're going to see right now. Daniel Dares just enjoying the course, utilizing this as a practice out here. We are just seeing Daniel Dares enjoying the element without the pressure on the course. Very laid back, very casual. But you know what? This is your defending champ. He got it done in his first run, and when you do that, the pressure is off for your second, which is a great position to be. Look how just casual he is cruising. 360 tail whip transfer. It's actually nice to see Daniel just with a very relaxed pace out here.
Yeah, usually we're always watching Daniel with just bangers after bangers, getting the tricks totally out, and that's what he needs to do, obviously, to stay on top.
Yeah, this almost looks like a totally different rider because you're not seeing him try to throw every little trick in every little pocket. It's just a way more relaxed approach. I'm interested to even see what his score is out here. You know, because I mean, it's not obviously putting every single topping on the Sunday that he can do, but still, you got that solid base. 3 scoops of flavors, 3 scoops of fun. So we're going to see what the judges will think of that more relaxed version of Daniel Dares out there.
I do think they are just going to wipe it. I don't know if they were watching, getting things together. Yeah, he's getting a 0 actually on our board. So judges wiped that one as soon as they saw Daniel come out with that 360 tabletop, but it was very refreshing to watch Daniel do a nice run like this, just calm and collected. Day at the trails, day at the skate park, coaching the Groms around.
So again, here in Chengdu, so cool that the city just welcomes us in open arms. Chengdu, for anyone who has not been to China, is such a cool place to be. Rich in culture, not only with food, not only with history, but also the personalities of the people here. And it's exciting because, you know, a lot of the locals that live in Chengdu have not seen action sports before. So there's a genuine excitement when we wind up bringing the events here, and there's this newness and this energy. And the cool part about Feast, we actually built a skate park here that's going to stay here in our park so that riders can wind up figuring out their styles and figuring out how to ride and become new competitors. We have our Feast Academy that has set up a school here, and each month they're going to have classes, they're going to have lessons, and also competitions go on. So Daniel Dares, it's going to be a 72 for his second run. His first score is the 85.4. Again, that secures him very highly in that second spot where he is going to be there. But Daniel Sandoval sitting there in 6th right now with an 80. He's another rider who has solidified his position, I believe, unofficially into that final.
Sandoval now dropping in 360 tail whip to bar spin, tuck no hander on that quarter pipe. Coming up 360 downside tail whip, upwards on the spine, flare tail whip, 360 bar spin transfer. Looks like he's holding off a little bit on this run. Sandoval is sitting in a comfortable 6th position.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to speak for Sandoval, but knowing Ryan, what we've seen him capable of, this does look like a run where he is going to be relying on that first run score. But you know what? I stand corrected. Double tail whip coming up. No easy task to float into that elevated section. And here we go. Sandoval popping a flare transfer. So interesting to see our riders when they do a quote-unquote, whoa!
Whoa, front flip flare.
There was nothing relaxed about that right there. Front flip, flare, transfer, putting the weight right over the handlebars, known as the lawn dart. So Sandoval getting that second run done. No crashes there for Daniel. First run was that 80. We have 6 more riders that remain. Kieran Reilly and Kenneth Tencio, 2 within the course of our heat number 5. Hopefully Tencio takes his second run out on the course. But that means that Sandoval will be our top 6 rider that's there. But it will be an all-out war for Reilly and Tencio.
Here we go, waiting for those scores to come in. As we were saying previously, the score to beat is of Ernest Zabel with an 86.6. Daniel Sandoval waiting for his score to come in. He's currently sitting in 5th position with an 80 even. He's going to better his score, but just by nearly 1 point, so 80.4. Edith Grazev sleeping on screen, woken up by our cameraman.
Yeah, I think he was just getting in that zone out here. We talk about when the pressure's on, you got to take that mental and make it physical. And right now, Kieran Reilly rolling in.
Whoa, 360 triple tail whip, so perfect out of the gate. Bar spin to tuck no hander, coming up with a 360 tuck no hander. Feel like I can have an echo. Listen to our on-site MC Catfish down there. 360 tail whip on the spine, double tail whip on the quarter pipe, toboggan over that extended spine jump, tuck no hander. Kieran Reilly really holding on. 360 on look back, coming up into the wall. Going to be able to have a bunch more hits here with 20 seconds on the clock. Double tail whip over that hip box jump.
That was a tail whip to tabletop. Quick little nose bump, checking in on the top of the deck with the toboggan. Final 10 seconds. Ooh!
Beautiful style there.
Yeah, that was the knack-knack, but putting the leg down and back for some style.
Mike Aiken is Chase Hawk. Kieran Reilly, solid run. Some beautiful style, some great banger tricks.
So Kieran Reilly's first score had him sitting in 7th place. Our top 6 riders are all in the 80s. That second run was solid. You actually saw Alex Nikolin up there, a fellow Russian. Unfortunately, didn't make it to our semifinal, but given the support out there as Kieran Reilly exits off the course. There's that nose bonk to toboggan. There's the knack-knack right there, putting the foot down. It's not even a traditional knack-knack going back. Really just planting that foot completely downward.
Score to beat, Ernest Zabel, 86.6.
You see Paul Dolan up there.
Kieran Reilly not going to be able to improve his score. 79.90, it's good enough for 7th place. Gonna be a bit of a nail biter as we have 4 more heavy-hitting athletes coming up. And Kenneth Tencio back on top of the deck after that horrific crash earlier in his first run.
What a tough man Come on, Kenneth, look at this moment right here, coming back after the crash and starting it out with that red carpet entrance. Backflip in, Tensio, let's see if he can put that first run behind him. X-up transfer, tabletop. Ooh.
Yes, getting that 360 and holding that channel grab.
Yeah, not opting. Oh!
Oh, two hits heavy onto that knee. Incredible, man's made of steel out here. Tensio, if you were not watching previously, had a really difficult crash, gapping over that channel, quarter to quarter pipe right there, coming off that 360 Superman seat grab. Beautiful cork 720 right there on the step down spine. Superman seat grab, air, coming back up into the small quarter.
Tensio bar spin, looking for some thoughts, transferred that 360 tail whip on the step down. Bar spin 450, and a tail whip kicking that transfer over. Big ups to Kenneth Tensio. Look, Ryan, I don't even care what his score is. The fact that he came in after that hard crash, talk about a rider with a lot of heart and with also a lot of inner strength, not to mention being tough as nails. Very impressive to see Kenneth out there. The fact that you come back from a crash with no warm-up and can do the backflip drop-in and then the 360 Superman seat grab.
Yes, incredible actually. Oh, and just hanging up, that extended spine is really turning out to be a difficult one for some of the athletes. Maybe just forgetting as you're hitting a jump like that, you think, okay, the kicker looks exactly like a spine, it's just gonna be a spine, and you forget, you just pull a tiny bit too hard and it throws you completely off. It can have dire consequences to your run like that.
Yeah, so Tensio, his first run again was a throwaway 14.8. He did have a big crash in there. That's gonna impact his overall score. As we look on the course, our next 4 riders who happen to be our top 4 qualifiers are getting their blood flowing. It's been a long day of watching our other riders competing out here. So they just want to get warmed up, they want to get psyched, they want to repeat what they did yesterday in a qualifier, but definitely put down a little bit more.
You're wondering who those riders are. The sixth and final heat going right now. It's going to be Jake Walworth, Declan Brooks, Rim Nakamura, and Dennis Enerson. Finishing it off. Scores coming in right there for Kenneth Tensio. He's just going to be good enough for 18th position, so he misses the qualification going into the finals for tomorrow. But let me repeat that again. Next riders up on deck is going to be Jake Walworth, Declan Brooks, Rim Nakamura from Japan, and Dennis Enerson from San Diego, California.
So since we have one final heat left that consists of 4 riders, as we are looking at highlights right here, that means that Ernest Seabolds, Daniel Dares, Jake Leva, Marin Rantish, Daniel Sandoval, Jack Clark, Eric Reisev, and Ryan Nyquist are unofficially going to be going into the finals, and that means these next 4 spots are still up for grabs. Cam Peake, Justin Dowell, Brandon Lupos, and Colton Walker are going to be questioning if they can make it in, depending on the runs of our next 4 riders. Look at the highlights here. Eric Reisev contorting his body completely sideways with that bike. 360 bar spin to tuck no-hander. Tensio coming back after that crash, backflip dropping in, 360 Superman seat grab. And there's a look at Daniel Dares after he got his big run. He took just more of a victory chill lap out there, knowing he qualified for the final. Super impressed with Daniel Sandoval's riding in his second run. So laid back and in control out there, had that front flip flare.
Eric Reisev, that beautiful knack-knack as well. And here we go, Kenneth Tensio, the man of steel. There's that 360 Superman seat grab. This is of the second run where he came back, of course. Still did that cork 720, but look at the audience out here in Chengdu. The Chinese crowd have come out in swarms and are ready to see the last athletes of the last heat for our semifinals of the men's pro BMX.
So Woolwork, Brooks, Nakamura, and Enerson are going to be our last 4 riders. The Australian rider, locked and loaded, getting ready. 60 seconds are on the clock. 2 runs, best run counts. 24 riders, 12 are going to qualify. This is for our last 4 riders to make it in. Jake Walwork. 360 double tail whip. Jake sitting 40th for our points overall. What? Yo!
Whoa,
Big
Jake.
front flip with the bar spin. That was enormous out there. One of the biggest tricks we saw of the competition. That is crazy because you got to put your weight forward over the bike and still throw the handlebars without them getting tangled up in your knees.
Yeah, beautiful backflip, flare tail whip right there coming out of Jake.
25 seconds.
20 seconds left on the clock. Oh, and just missing the pedals on that Superman C-Crab Indian Air. Tail whip up into the quarter pipe, trying to get some momentum back, right? Oh! Ooh, going down hard, not having the speed for that one. Jake Walwork.
Right back up. Let's make some noise for Jake Walwork.
Well, he definitely qualifies as being Australian. There is something about the Aussie riders who are cut from, I don't even want to say a different cloth, I'm going to say from steel. Jake going down hard, getting up right there. Looks like he will be okay to ride his second run. Definitely not only is the pain a factor, but disheartening when you're able to throw big tricks like that front flip bar spin or this 360 double tail whip transfer.
That was honestly such a heavy hit. Let me just touch on that. And it didn't even look at all 1 ounce like it hurt him.
No, and we could feel that up here in the
Yeah.
announcer tower. You literally, it sounded like a bag of rocks just got tossed off the bleachers into the park right there. Thankfully, he's up. He's going to have his second run. Jake has what it takes. I mean, he qualified in 4th. It's just the question is, can he put it together when it counts? He did yesterday.
And this becomes the difficulty. Doing it under pressure is one thing. And so are these riders able to do it? We have some big names in the house right now. You are cheering up Declan Brooks, who's on top of the deck, ready to drop in for his run. But right now, we are waiting to see what the score will be of Jake Walwork. As we saw in the replays, there were some highlights, some big tricks that Jake actually got off his bag before he ended up having that crash. But how is that crash going to affect his run for the judges? I think it's going to be dire, actually, as it comes in here. Yes, a 44.80. That's not even going to be close enough for qualifying. He definitely has to come back. He has all the pressure on his shoulders for run number 2.
Yeah, well, our next rider, Declan Brooks, doing it for the UK. So hyped that he is back on his bike and in a big way. He actually qualified in 3rd, and Declan always has a unique voice out on the course, is sleeveless, charging through with the big backflip.
Look at the amplitude on that one. Haven't seen anyone get that high yet today.
Let's put bold on the word big as we are seeing height from Declan. He is letting his voice be heard as the UK is charging with that wall ride, setting up for that unique,
going for that alley-oop 360 whip and hanging up on the landing right there.
Declan having a little bit of difficulty, but I am hoping that we are going to see a flawless second run. Declan back from an injury where he was not able to join us earlier in the year, but it's so cool that right now he has been charging. Because of that fact, and this is Declan's first UCI event, he actually had to do a pre-qualification where he rode awesome, he rode great in the qualifier, and hopefully that extra practice on the course is going to pay off in his second run. Look at the height on that backflip, same with that 360 tail whip to X up. And then right here, he wound up hanging up on that steep transition, went down pretty hard. Thankfully didn't take all the brute on his shoulder. Sometimes riders can do that and do some damage to it. But you can see Declan's definitely a meaty guy, so hopefully that muscle was able to take some of that brute impact force that went down. So a 29 is going to be his toss-away score, and we are going to hope to channel that energy. You see that the UK's coach, Jamie Bestwick, going over to give a little bit of words of guidance for Declan.
A man who had an amazing performance out there in the qualifications. We picked him up in Japan. This is Rim Nakamura, who is ready to drop in, and her second place qualifier from yesterday's. Oh, but starting it off with that 360 whip to double bar spin and not holding his pedals on there on the landing.
Yeah, you can see right there, Rim a little bit surprised, not only that he didn't get it around, but also maybe a little bit excited that he didn't crash right there. So Rim having some difficulty. We talk about the pressure being on as this is an Olympic qualifier. 360 bar spin to bar spin and then not getting it all the way. So Rim right there, that is going to be his throwaway score for sure. Rim is a genuine superstar when it comes to BMX. In Japan, he cannot go anywhere without just having hordes of fans. He is one of our younger riders. He was actually too young to compete in the Buenos Aires Youth Olympic Games. You have to be 17 to 18 years old. He is 16. He is also doing it for Sabrosa, so a 6.80. I know Ryan Scher and Ron Bonner down in Florida are cheering on the Sabrosa rider.
Our next rider up in the gate. We've seen him out here on the FIS World Series before. This is coming from San Diego, California. This is Dennis Anderson.
Here we go, Anderson, your top qualifier, charging with the big transfer, hitting the wall with both tires. No other rider has messed with that gap as Anderson cans with the tire grab. Over the box jump.
Oh, yes! Cannonball bar spin.
Wow, going up on that sub. Yes, he did bonk his back peg, his front peg, while his back tire was on the coping.
Wow, yes, Dennis Anderson totally tackling different line selection. This is how he ended up on top of that qualification from yesterday.
Not only does Anderson have unique lines out here, but he's got that power and the energy similar to Ernest Z. Bolt, who has our top run score. Anderson looking to top that as he has 15 seconds and twists a one-handed X-up. Anderson coming up, setting up for that box jump again.
So smooth on the transition as well.
Bars are backwards.
How possibly catching those bars backwards and still holding complete composure, going for the 180. Wow, Dennis Anderson, I can't believe it. Was that after the buzzer?
After the buzzer, during the buzzer, before the buzzer, either way, it was absolutely crazy. Anderson somehow coming back from that half bar spin and still committed to get the 180. That's why Dennis Anderson is one of the favorite riders to watch out here, not only for our fans, but our fellow riders. Anderson recently lit the internet on fire, putting out a really cool video called Caps Lock. For all you viewers out there, make sure that you Google Dennis Anderson's name. Check out on YouTube, Caps Lock. It's such a cool video. But look at all the highlights out here. The tail whip transfer. Here's the 360. The bars went around 2.5 times, landing backwards, and then trying to land backwards in the 180. You see that his weight went a little cattywampus off to the side, got spitted out of the barrel. And there is Matthias Dandois, who is one of our flatland riders and defending champion, cheering on Dennis Anderson.
Ooh, not good enough for Dennis Anderson. The judges are really being difficult with these scores as they have from the very get-go. Coming up in here, Dennis Anderson is sitting in an uncomfortable 17th position coming out of his first place qualification.
Well, the pressure is on for all of our competitors of heat number 6. This is for all the marbles. The chips are in the table right now. Jake Woolwork coming in for his second run, trying to make Australia proud. 360 double tail whip over that step down. Come on, Jake, charging, 10 seconds down, 50 to go as Woolwork front flip bar spin.
Yes.
2 for 2 out there, flare transfer.
Jake Woolwork, man, that was a huge one of that front flip bar spin. Massive amplitude as well and hitting perfect transition as he keeps his composure, rolling around into that flare whip.
Now, all of our riders, Ryan, did qualify in top positions. That means they were able to do it yesterday, but can they do it today as Woolwork throws the bars and puts the hands into the lap for the no-hander? Front flip, no-handed transfer flare. That was insane, Ryan. 10 seconds are coming up.
Wow, this is incredible. As you're saying, are they all able to do it out here today? Our last top 4 competitors have all had bad luck in their first runs, but Jake Woolwork holds it right down to the last minute here.
Whoa, Woolwork getting the full run in there. I believe that was an opposite flare. Again, taking 12 riders into the final. That means that 9 through 12 is still yet to be determined. Cam Peake, Justin Dowell, Brandon Lupos, and Colton Walker are wondering, Where's the score going to be for Jake Walwork as we look at that front flip bar spin? So crazy he's able to guide the grips around as he still puts the weight in the right position to do that front flip. But right now is the no-handed full extension on that front flip flare. That was insane, Ryan.
Jake Walwork had a great run right there. It was an insane run. And is it enough, though, to get up into the qualifications, which means that he's making it into the finals for tomorrow? Right now, I believe the score to beat is a 77.1 set out from Colton Walker. We're going to have to see if Jake can get past that. But as well on top still is Ernest Seibold with that 86.6 from his first run. All the way from Latvia. He is astonished to be up top on that board. I'm really excited to see someone new up there myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is really an interesting event right here. In our last heat, all of our riders had a mess up in an 86. Boom! The second biggest score of the day.
Yes.
Jake Walwork said, I'm in the finals, baby.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that means that Colton Walker is going to move out. Now it means Brandon Lupos is sitting there biting his nails saying, what is Declan Brooks, Rim Nakamura, and Dennis Anderson going to do on their second run? Well, right now, UK's Declan Brooks cruising in after getting some advice from Jamie Beswick, the UK coach, and he is telling him to go big on that backflip.
Wow, huge amplitude coming out of the young UK athlete coming up here. Declan really putting some height into these jumps. 360 tail whip to X up right there, making the channel gap, taking out the tail whip on that 270.
Yeah, we talk about risk and reward, and right now he is taming it down on that transfer, but then bringing up the meter of difficulty right there on that double bar spin 360, setting up for that capsule. Declan going wall to wall, coast to coast on the wall ride. 15 seconds as he hits nice two setup airs into a big height backflip. Declan with the manual, can he do it?
Threading the needle on all these line selections that he had here. Some great unique variations as well. Going for that front flip, adding the difficulty, and an ice pick to bar spin, finishing it off at the buzzer for Declan Brooks.
Declan Brooks is back in a big way. It is awesome to see Declan Brooks here at our fourth and final stop. He's been battling some injuries all year long. You can see, though, it has not fazed him mentally or physically. There is Matthias Dandois, our Flatlander, who we are going to see defending his title on Sunday out there, giving a pound to Declan. But let's look at the strategy out here. Big, big, big indeed. We saw him strip out that tail whip 270 that he fell on and stuck with unique lines out here like this manual on the sub box. No other rider went up there. And here's a look at the front flip for Declan, and then had that ice pick where you balance on the back peg and then threw the handlebars around. That was a big run. Right now, if you were Brandon Lupos, you were saying, uh-oh, because the score to beat is a 78.4, and that was a big run for Declan. If I was a gambling man, I would definitely put money on that score being up into the potential 80s right there, but that is not our job to say. We got our 5 judges, Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Romulad Nuap, Marcus Vilk, and Christy Hughes, who are going to determine the fate of the UK rider, Declan Brooks.
So Declan right now biting his nails, waiting to see if he is able to come in, and he does! Declan Brooks with an 84.5. He pushes up into contention. A great, well-deserved spot in the 4th place, but that means that we just bumped out Brandon Lupos out of the rankings for the final tomorrow.
So Cam Peake and Justin Dowell are the 2 riders that are on pressure right now, and that is not a good spot that you want to be with the 16-year-old sensation from Japan, Rima Nakamura, dropping in.
Our 2nd place qualifier from yesterday's event, starting strong here at the 360 tail whip to tuck no hander. That was, I believe, a quad bar spin on that quarter pipe into a 360 down downside tail whip. Nice tail whip to bar spin on that quarter pipe. Huge combinations, a triple bar spin in that 360 right there.
Right now, Rim has turned it up to 11. The Sabrosa Oakley rider wants to make his presence known into that final. Look at that, transferring backwards, doing the double bar spin with that no-hander. Rim is throwing so many transfers and tricks into each one of these airs. A lot of height into the box jump. Boom!
Yes,
720 with the bar spin.
Exactly like you were saying, the sensation 16-year-old coming out of Japan, Rim Nakamura, showing us why he qualified second yesterday, holding it down with the last 5 seconds on the clock, getting a little wall slap to bar spin, 1 foot can on that hip jump, and finishing it off with a downside tail whip right onto the buzzer.
Yes, Rim Nakamura. The Oakley rider out there getting it done. Rim has been born around BMX. His dad owns a BMX shop out in Japan. He's actually named hence Rim after a bike part. You can see the Japanese flag being held up loud and proud out there. So right now we had the two riders, Cam Peake, Justin Dowell. They are going, oh no, that was a big run from Rim Nakamura. My chances do not look good because, Ryan, the score to beat is that 78.8. Excuse me, a 79 or higher is needed, but Cam Peake's got the 79, Justin Dowell is a 78.8. That was a big run.
I'm just going on a goose limb out here saying Rim is definitely going to be getting into the 80s with that run that we just saw unfold in front of us. If not, he's going to be rivaling the podium positions, which is up in the 85 and higher category. We'll have to wait and see what the judges say here, but that, in my opinion, means as well Justin Dowell might be out, and he is second place in 86.2 for Rim Nakamura right there. A huge amount of pressure now left on our last and final rider and our first place qualifier from yesterday. He was not able to deliver in his first run out here, just having a crash at the very end. This is San Diego's Dennis Enerson.
Wow, Enerson wall ride with the transfer, cutting it close to the coping right there. You got to think about strategy. Does Dennis pour it on right here, or does he play it safe? Because he just has to be one of the top 12, but it looks like Enerson is just going for it as he builds speed, coming in. A lot of momentum.
Blasting that tail whip transfer over that entire quarter hip section onto that massive honor quarter pipe. Turn down right there, pumping back with a flip whip.
Enerson jumping into the honor capsule. Here we go, transfer up, very cool line. We haven't seen any other rider set up for the one-handed X up that way.
15 seconds left on the clock for Dennis Enerson.
10 seconds to go for Enerson. Cannonball grabbing the seat with both arms, double tire over. Here we go.
Yes, Dennis Enerson getting that 180 that troubled him in run number 1.
So Enerson, as far as his strategy, said the same thing. I'm putting my chips on the table. Enerson, one of the most talented riders out there in the world. You can see him having a good time. You also can see that Vans logo up on his chest. That is a new one for Dennis Enerson as he's getting cheered on by his Vans teammates. That is why I brought that up. This is a big run for Enerson. Transfer, hitting the wall, coming into that coping nice and clear. There's the can with the tire grab. Enerson with the big tail whip transfer. Not only is this going to potentially shake up that 12th spot for Cam Peake, this might just shake up our entire leaderboard altogether. That was a huge run for Enerson. So Enerson needs a higher, and look at that, we got a brand new leader, 89.80. Enerson bumping up into that top spot, Ryan.
You know, he's throwing a thumbs down, almost saying, like, just the humble soul out there, thinking that that wasn't actually first place for him. Well, it was in our eyes. The line selection, the difficulty, the amplitude, the tricks, everything combined. That is how he got into the qualification top spot right there. And Dennis Enerson racking up. You see right there an 89.80 Dennis Enerson on top, followed by the Latvian Ernest Zabeld right there, and Japan's Rim Nakamura, Australia's Jake Wallwork, and then Daniel Dares rounding up the top 5. A completely international field. Declan Brooks finishing off in the 6th place. Jake Leva, Marin Rentis, Daniel Sandoval, Jack Clark in 10th place, Eric Ryzev, and Ryan Nyquist rounding up our finalists going into tomorrow.
Yeah, big props to all of our riders. You can see 13 through 24 out there. To even make it into our semifinal was such a feat and an accomplishment. That was insane. Can we just highlight that that was a semifinal? That wasn't even the final.
Yeah, that was just a semifinal. We are so excited in seeing the tricks go down to a wire like that. We are so happy to see all these competitors come out to the FIS World Series. But speaking about the World Series, let's take a look at the overall ranking.
So we have Nick Bruce sitting in that top spot. Unfortunately, he did not qualify for the semi or final. So Daniel Dares, who is our defending champion, is going to have an opportunity to clean up a lot of points. We got Marin Rantish, Logan Martin, who unfortunately is not here due to an injury, and Justin Dowell is rounding up the top 5 spots.
So it's an amazing heat. Of course, you see those athletes putting down the points lead. We have the closing going on right out here. Any last thoughts?
That was insane. Again, semifinal, hello, that wasn't even the final. Big ups to all the riders, but I gotta say, Dennis Anderson bringing it. Last rider, last run. That's what's exciting about this format, being the best run counts. You can see it right up to the last moment. I do want to give a lot of respect to Ernest Seebold, Latvia coming out here. New style, new energy, showing that you don't have to necessarily do all the traditional tricks and your voice can still be heard out there. Daniel Dares is going to be in the final. Nick Bruce didn't make it. He's going to have an opportunity to defend the title and get those crucial points.
I mean, I'm with you on that. Ernest Zabeld was my top pick out of today. I was extremely impressed seeing that and seeing such a shogun performance from a Latvian come out here like that. I'm super elated to see him into the finals tomorrow. As well, of course, Dennis Anderson, congratulations on top honors like that. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, everyone out here at the FIS, Daryl Now, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for the semifinals of the UCI BMX Freestyle Park Pro Men's out here in FIS Chengdu. Thank you so much. Join us tomorrow for some of the next events. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us out here in beautiful China. That's right, it's the 2018 FIS World Series. It's the last stop on the tour in Chengdu.
Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all.
And going off the rail.
No way. Start the party. Celebrate. I'm sick of nonsense.
Finally, we're here.
Pick up my roll. Stress keeps building. It's about to blow. I'm coming to the end of the line. Check my watch, man.
In Chengdu, China, I mean, it's honestly amazing. Like, the crowd every year has been really supportive. You feel a great energy, and it's just a perfect home for action sports.